Coming up today on Locked On Mavs, I got 5 burning questions that Isaac has no idea what they are yet.
And you know what? I have 5 burning answers that Nick has no idea what they are either.
We will ask those and answer them right now.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks Podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com, the question queen, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Hey, I'm not the question queen today. That's you. You have the question.
Oh, sorry. Let me do it again. The answer ally, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
There you go.
Hey.
There you go. No, we had a rare 2 days off between games, which feels like
I don't know what to do with my hands.
I know.
Right? Like, what do you do with 2 days off? No Mavs basketball. This has been a weird season.
I feel like I had to watch a Mavs game tonight, and for me to read social media and everyone just be freaking out and pissed off about something. But a few big games this week. We've been talking about this Lakers series coming up, or say series, but it's like baseball now. But Pistons tonight. Lakers on Thursday night and Saturday night. Hopefully they can take care of business against Detroit. But as you guys know, nothing is given whenever you lose against the Kings and Rockets. So hopefully they can take care of business against the Pistons and then welcome the Lakers to town for what will be 2 massive games for the seeding in the West.
Absolutely. Today's episode is brought to you by Michelob Ultra at only 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the Ultra Player of the Week coming up later in the episode. Isaac, you've been saying that phrase like every podcast, and finally today you can say it, and it's our sponsor.
Do you win because you're happy, or
are you happy because you win? All right. Got 5 burning questions. And as you know, if you've listened to this podcast for any number of time, and by the way, we're getting close to the 5-year anniversary or the 4-year anniversary of the first Locked On Mavs with us.
Yeah.
Which is wild. We're going into our 5th year of doing this. You know that anytime we put a number on something, we always just blow it out of the water. This could be 3 questions we get to. This could be I have like 7 or 8 questions we get to. You never know. So a couple of Mavs questions first, and then we'll get into some general NBA stuff, some interesting stuff across the league that we want to talk about. First one. This is, I guess, a general NBA question, but also Mavs related. Are you nervous about the Golden State Warriors in the play-in? Because holy Steph Curry, he is going off right now. Absolutely crazy. Over this last, 11-game stretch, averaging 40 a game, 6 boards, just about 4.5 assists, shooting 54 from the floor, 50% from 3 on like over 12 attempts per game, 90% from the free throw line. Like he's doing 50, 50, 90 right now. Absolutely insane. Are you nervous about the Golden State Warriors if the Mavs had to play them in the play-in? Let's say they get up. They're only a game back from Memphis. Let's say they get to the 8th seed and the Mavs have to play them in that one game. Are you nervous about that?
Yeah. And I think if you're any team in the NBA playing the Warriors in a 1-game series, I don't care what team you are, you're nervous going against Steph Curry. I think it was Bill and Ryan Russillo the other day was doing like their list. They put it on social media and stuff too, of like the players they've enjoyed watching the most since Jordan retired. And I thought it was a cool idea, and it made me I thought for like a couple hours on like who my people would be on that list outside of Dirk, of course. And Steph has to be there. Like, yeah. I mean, he was number 1 on both of their lists. Spoiler alert on that, but Steph is
Luka Doncic snubbed. Come on.
I'm sorry, Luka. I need more years to see that. But what Steph, does at the highest level is just insane. He, especially now as my TV watching has went down. Now we have 2 kids in diapers, and if we're not watching Daniel Tiger Neighborhood or Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, something like that. Nick knows.
I watched both of those at your house. We watched a lot. Daniel Tiger Neighborhood, a complete ripoff of Mr. Rogers.
Yes, it really is.
But
if neither of those are on my TV, and the Warriors are playing, I'm like making an effort to sit down and turn on the Warriors game because of Steph Curry. So, and the run he's on right now, of course, I'm 100% worried if we have to play the Warriors in a 1-game series. Yes, sign me up, because you never know what Steph can do.
Absolutely. I would be worried for sure, but man, dude, like I know, let's take our Mavs fandom off maybe a little bit. Even with our Mavs fandom, like that's a game that matters. A 1 game where those two teams play each other. Luka versus Steph Curry, just the sheer magnitude of that game. It's bringing a little bit of what, the Premier League, hopefully the Premier League is staying intact after the whole Super League debacle, but it's some of that Premier League stuff where you have the threat of relegation, the threat of, getting into the top 4 or whatever. Like this is some real stakes to this with this play-in game. And so I'm excited to watch that game, right? Like that's one of the first, that's probably the more so than even playoff games. I think you're on your edge of your seat. You're like, your sphincter is clenched like the whole time during that game.
And you might look at that game and say, there's no reason for Dallas to lose that game, because if you did a fantasy draft, taking Luka and Steph out, how many Mavericks players are getting drafted ahead of, Warriors players? Like you would take KP over Draymond probably, but after Draymond, how many Mavericks players are you taking over Wiggins?
Yeah, probably this year. Draymond's really fallen off from all indications.
Yeah, so it's like you look at the rest of that roster and who they're starting and who, locks minutes for them. And it's like, all right, we should beat that team, but I don't care. And the fact that Steph and Draymond have won at the highest level. We know they've won championships and everything. They've been there, done that. So I don't care what the rest of the roster looks like. If it's 1 game, I'm scared as crap going against Steph Curry and Draymond in a big game.
And they beat the mess out of the Mavericks earlier this season.
Kelly Oubre.
Absolutely incredible, crazy game that they beat them. They had the in that game. So the Warriors won 130-105. Remember, it wasn't even that close. The Warriors had 146.6 offensive rating in that game. Insane. Absolutely insane. Okay, so you're worried about that. Rank the potential playoff matchups for the Mavs. Let's say they get past the play-in. Rank these as far as, 1 being you'd most want to play them to 5 being, no, stay the heck away from me. Suns, Jazz, Nuggets, Clippers, Lakers. Rank these in terms of which ones the Mavs would most want to play or least want to play.
I'll go from most to least. I'll say Denver, Utah, Phoenix, Clippers, Lakers.
Denver, you'd most want to play. You think that? Yeah,
just because the Murray stuff, and I think I would flip them in Utah if Murray was there. But just the fact, but that's my only thing. I think they're going to stay there in that 4 or 5 spot. I mean, Jokic went off again the other night. He's probably going to win MVP, and rightfully so.
To Brian Windhorst's chagrin.
That was an all-time.
And of course, McMahon was there for it. Of course.
Yes. The Battle of the Timbs with Wendy. But yeah, I do think they're vulnerable in a playoff series. There's only so much Jokic can do, and that's relying a lot on Michael Porter Jr. I would prefer them, then Utah, Phoenix. Utah and Phoenix, they're kind of interchangeable.
If I was going to say Utah and the Suns, you'd put the Utah as a team you'd want to play more than the Suns.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think I think so, just because I want to see. Yeah, it's interchange. I could see both sides. I like some of the matchups with Utah. If you just did like, hey, who's guarding who? I like the matchups with Utah before like Phoenix, but I would like Phoenix's like youthfulness. The fact that DeAndre
they haven't been there. Utah's at least been in a playoff series together.
Exactly. So that could come back to bite me once Phoenix.
And everything's going to come back to. I mean, everything. You're picking between 2 worse options, right? How many players on Phoenix's team have actually been in a playoff series? Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, like Booker hasn't, Ayton hasn't, Bridges hasn't, Javon Carter, no. Torrey Craig has, I guess, with Denver.
Yeah.
He plays spot minutes for him. Langston Galloway with Pistons, probably. Cam Johnson, no. Kaminsky, I guess, maybe somewhere. Etwan Moore has with the Pelicans. Campaign, our boy, has he been in the playoffs? Dario Saric, no. Like that's a lot of their. There's only a couple guys there that have been in a playoff series, but Chris Paul bringing that veteran leadership and all that. So Clippers Lakers then is probably the right order. Let us know
that I fear Chris Paul in a playoff series more than anybody on Utah.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell did that 50-point game like several times last year, but
yeah, for some reason I was picturing that he wouldn't be fully healthy, but hopefully he'll be fully healthy by that time.
Right. Coming up, let's get into some more questions. We'll talk about the playoff matchups, and then let us know in the comments on YouTube, on Twitter, at Nick Van Exit, at Isaac L. Harris, at Locked On Mavs. Rank the teams. Which one you would most want to play for the Mavs? Which one you'd least want to play? Denver, Utah, the Suns, Clippers, Lakers. Let us know in the comments and on Twitter. So let us know that. But before we get to the next questions, I got to tell you about the Michelob Ultra Player of the Week. Isaac, let's put up some nominations. Let's do it this way this week. Let's do some nominations. So Luka obviously is like an always nominated player for Ultra Player of the Week.
Yeah.
Any other nominations? Like last week, I think we talked about Melly was a guy. Jalen Brunson. It has to be Luka just because of the Memphis shot, right?
Yeah, that's the reason I was going to say.
There's no other takers for the Ultra Player. Porzingis averaged 17 points this week. The Mavs went 1-2. They had the Memphis game. Man, this has been a rough week. Memphis game, Knicks, and then Kings.
How many listeners are like, yeah, tell us again, Nick. We know.
I'm just saying it has been, and we're all going through it. So, Luka Doncic, the Michelob Ultra Player of the Week, he was absolutely incredible. Just the Memphis shot alone puts him as the Player of the Week. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Like Isaac always likes to say, 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. Joy creates success, and I think Luka's joy. Honestly, this is probably the best version of this ad this week because it's Luka's joy in the game to throw up those random shots. After practices, during practices, Carlisle talked about how he's lost so many thousands of dollars. Luka making crazy shots after practice, during practice, shoot-arounds, all that. And it's just because Luka loves the game and enjoys it. And enjoyment isn't the end game, but it's the whole game. Luka embodies all of that. And so I think that this is the best version of this advertisement this week, Isaac, is for Luka to be the Michelob Ultra Player of the Week.
Are you successful because you have joy, or do you have joy because you are successful?
Mucho joy. Mucho joy. I like to give away joy for free. This year, the Locked On Podcast Network is partnering with the Draft Network to cover the NFL Draft live. Get insight and analysis from the Locked On local experts and the Draft Network's national experts. Subscribe to the Locked On NFL YouTube page to watch live 3-day coverage of the NFL Draft, April 29th through May 1st. So, the Locked On NFL YouTube page. Go subscribe to it. Good stuff every single day there. Great stuff. Our NFL channel is awesome. I don't know if it's as good as the NBA channel, but that's because we're on the NBA channel. We're kind of biased. Also, I'm very biased because I run the NBA channel. All right. Bunch of questions for you.
Ready.
Do we want to keep talking about the rankings? Denver, Utah, the Suns, Clippers, Lakers. We feel good about that. My last Mavs question today. So the Mavs practiced on Tuesday, and Carlisle didn't say a lot, but afterwards he said, everything's on the table at this point. When he talked about the Mavericks trying to catch the Trailblazers or the Lakers for a 6th seed. And this is from Callie Kaplan, Dallas Morning News. That includes lineup changes, but Carlisle wouldn't divulge his thinking on Tuesday after practice. Quote from Carlisle, as we used to say when I was on TV, stay tuned. All right, Isaac Harris, what's the change? We've talked about, and I mentioned this before, JJ Redick starting for Josh Richardson. I don't know that it's the starting lineup that's the problem. The starting lineup has a good net rating. They had 2 awful games against the Knicks and against the Kings, and that really took them down over this last week. You're seeing numbers thrown all around on Twitter about how they're an awful defensive group and all that. That's mostly just from these last 2 games that they were really bad. Should the starting lineup be changed based on those 2 awful games alone, or has this been coming for a while?
No, I don't think it's based off 2 games. I think Rick has shown that he's not, that reactionary, but I think it's something that's
We know this for sure. He's not reactionary in the least.
Yeah, I think it's been culminating for a bit. If there
To a fault.
is a starting lineup change, and I think it's only a couple options that could be out there. I think the obvious one we've been talking about is JJ Redick in for Josh Richardson. Do they want to put Brunson into the starting unit in place of Josh Richardson? And honestly, he's been he has a ton of energy, but do they want to try to do the KP back at the 4 and Dwight Powell at the 5 again? So that's one of the.
I'm gonna go with no on that one because Maxey has been the only defensive saving grace for that front court, I believe, this season.
I agree with. I'm just trying to process some other options out there, but I think those first 2 would be more obvious ones.
So yeah, the obvious changes are: could it be to the starting lineup? I don't think so. I think that group is going to stay the way that it is, personnel reasons, all that, and it's been a good unit overall. The last 2 games have been really rough, but overall it's been good.
They could get off to better starts, though.
They could get off to better starts for sure. So maybe, and that unit isn't even closing games either.
Exactly.
So what it's kind of a weird situation there. But is it a change where Josh Richardson starts to defend the best perimeter player no matter what? Right? We haven't seen that too often. It's been Dorian most of the time, or Luka sometimes. Like Luka was guarding Fox more than Richardson guarded Fox. Is that a type of change? Is that the change that works? It's a matchup change instead of necessarily a lineup change. Is it something about who plays the most? If we look up, the Mavericks over the last, let's look up since April 1st, let's look up who's playing the most. So you have the obvious usual suspects, the top 7, Luka, Porzingis, Dorian, Richardson, Kleba, Brunson, Hardaway Jr. And then you have Melly, who's played in 8 of the 10 games. He's played 17 minutes a game. Boban has played just in 2 games. He's played 15 minutes a game in those 2 games. Dwight has appeared in all 10 games, but he only plays 14 minutes. Redick has only appeared in 4 games, 12 minutes. So is it like one of these guys that starts getting some more time, right? Is that a type of change that can happen? Let's say they did do that. Let's say they wanted, all right, we're going to add Melly or Boban or Dwight or I guess it's a top 8 because Dwight has played in all the games. So we're going to add a guy or take Dwight out to this rotation. Who do you think it would be? For Dwight or in addition to Dwight even?
I don't think Dwight Powell's leaving the rotation anytime soon.
I don't think so either.
I think he's played well lately. We know they love him, and his energy has been very infectious to the team. So I think it's more taking some people out. Like if Melly didn't play over the next couple of games, like I wouldn't be shocked in that.
Yeah. So adding, I guess you would add him to the rotation a little bit because it seems like he's just been, he appeared in a game, but he only played 1 minute against the Kings, right? It's not like he's been in a rotation really. Trey Burke is a guy that's kind of been in and out. He's sort of an option. We've talked about the rookies a lot, but I don't think that they're going to go down that route. And it would just be Josh Green at this point if he was going to go down that route, but I don't think that. Redick is the guy, right? Maybe to start him or even just to add him to the rotation a little bit more. He's playing 8 minutes a game. I want to look up exactly. It seems like he's been so up and down with his minutes, but in each game, but he's the guy that they would add to the rotation. Yeah, he played 13 minutes, 14 minutes, 17, and 4. Those are the minutes in each game. So adding him to the rotation a little more full time, and maybe it's an injury thing coming back, but I think that would be the change that he makes, either starting him or closing games with him or something like that.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, let's get to another question. This one's a little loaded, so we'll start it and then we'll come back to it. Which stretch was better? Curry right now is going on this insane, crazy stretch. Like I said, from the end of March till now, 40 points a game, 6 boards, 4.5 assists, shooting 54, 50, 90. The Warriors are 7-4 in this time. This Warriors team is not good. No. Not a good team. Wiseman's out. That actually makes them better. Draymond has not been the same. Clay's not there. It's him, Kelly Oubre, Wiggins, and that's it. Right? Like there's really not a lot else there. Or I heard this on, and I know this is going to infuriate many of you, including Isaac across from me. You are wearing red, but I was listening to Locked On Rockets, and I was in
Why?
there. I was in there because it's my job, and I was in their locker room, and they were all up in arms.
You're in the locker room? Wow, I didn't know they were allowing reporters in there.
We're on there every Thursday. Go check us out on Thursday on Locker Room. And they were the Rockets fans and the hosts were all up in arms about how Steph Curry was being treated as this NBA, darling during this stretch when James Harden didn't even get the appreciation or the accolades or whatever when he was going through this crazy stretch. Listen to this stretch James Harden went through. From December 13th to January 23rd, 2018 to 2019. 43 points a game. This is over a month. So like 40 days or something. 43 points a game, 8 boards, 8 assists a game, shooting 44, 38, 89 from the free throw line.
Do we know the free throw attempts differences between Steph and James?
Vast. The Rockets were 15 and 16 in that time. That was the Rockets team, if you remember, with the full complement. So it's Chris Paul, it's Clint Capella, it's PJ Tucker, it's Eric Gordon, that whole team that was decent. I think that team went on to win like 53 games or so. Harden came in second in MVP that season. Which stretch is more impressive? Harden carrying that playoff team and kind of dragging them out of a ditch that they shouldn't have been in the first place, or Steph Curry right now doing what he's doing with this Warrior squad? I'll ask Isaac that. We'll talk all about that coming up.
I was gonna say I don't need time to think. So,
but before we do, let's talk about Built Bar, guys. I gotta tell you something.
Nick and I both placed an order today.
We placed an order today. It was very important that we did, and it's important that you guys do because it's back.
It's back, baby.
It's back. I got one of my last ones right here.
Never left.
The coconut brownie chunk bar is back. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. They're absolutely delicious. And the new and improved, hopefully not too much different than it was before because it was absolutely delicious. But the coconut brownie chunk bar is absolutely great. It's a good bar. 150 calories, 15 grams of protein, only 7 grams of sugar in a bar that tastes exactly like a candy bar. They're absolutely delicious. Use the promo code LOCKED15 if you want to get some of these. Go get them right now. Like, don't even wait, right? If you're on YouTube right now, open up another tab and go get these right now if you've been thinking about it because they're going to go fast. Many Locked On hosts have been asking for them. David Locke put it in all of our Twitter DM groups today, and then a bunch of hosts just flocked to it and started to make orders. Isaac and I have already made orders for this, so go check it out. BuiltBar.com. Use that promo code LOCKED15. Also want to tell you about betonline.ag. It's the one-stop shop to put down some money on sports. All kinds of games all the time. There are MLB games, NBA games, NFL games. You can also do little stuff. Like I noticed that Locked On Bets podcast did a bet where it was the first 5 innings of a game. You can bet. Is this team going to win for the first 5 innings of a game? There's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. Bet the money line, bet the run total, the over-under, all that kind of stuff. So go check it out, betonline.ag. Let's see if they have the Dallas Mavericks on here. We're going to open it, betonline.ag. If you can see it, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not subscribed, they don't have the Mavericks game up here yet. They have the Jazz, an 11-point favorite over the Rockets right now. For tomorrow, they have the Warriors, a 2-point favorite over the Wizards. I'm going to call that one a lock right there. I think the Warriors are going to beat the Wizards, and Curry's going to go off because that team plays no defense.
No.
And so go check that out if you want to put down some money. Bet online, use the promo code LOCKEDON, get 50% welcome bonus to your first deposit. Bet online, your online sportsbook experts. The Ultimate Mock Draft 2021 presented by Locked On and Audacity is happening now. Featuring analysis from NFL experts Michael Irvin, Jason Lockenfora, Brian Baldinger, our local experts for every team making trades and picking the new stars of their team. Search the Ultimate Mock Draft. It was trending 29th on Apple Podcasts today. On the new Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcast, Odyssey is your audio home for all sports podcasts, music, and news that matter to you. Odyssey, Audacy. All right, Isaac Harris. I teed you up before the break. Who had a better stretch? James Harden back in 2018-2019 when he was averaging 43 for an entire month, or Steph Curry in this last 3 weeks or so, averaging 40 and shooting 50% from 3?
Yeah, I think it's Steph, and I think it's Steph pretty clearly in this, mainly because of a couple different things. Steph's team is so much worse, and I mean the supporting cast around Steph so much worse than what James had in that stretch. Another thing is, because of that supporting cast, Golden State's going against these teams to where they know that, hey, they just have to stop Steph. So you watch some of these Warriors games, I mean, they're doubling him coming across half court. But then Steph, because he's such an excellent guy who moves off the ball, then he's just running everywhere and then trying to get open. Then he gets the ball back and then he's throwing up another three. And so his shot making is just insane. But another big difference between those two, I don't have James Harden's free throw attempts. I was mentioning that a while ago to you. I don't have his free throw attempts per game in front of me. But right now, Steph is averaging 6 free throw attempts a game. I'm going to assume James Harden had a lot more than that. In that season, especially in that stretch. And so when we talk about why Rockets fans could be upset about that, it's because what's been one of the biggest things people complain about James Harden. He gets these dumb foul calls and he flails, he does all that crap into where he gets to the line, he gets all these free throws. And I know Steph has his moments. They all have, all the stars have their moments, but Steph is averaging this while not taking a ton of free throws.
Harden's free throw attempts per game in that stretch. Again, this is December 2018 to January 2019. Over under 12.5.
Over.
14.6 free throw attempts per game, and he hit 13 of them. 13 of his points. So he's scoring 30 points off the free throw line. So still an incredible stretch, right? Like, we're not trying to take too much away from him, but if we're comparing the two incredible stretches, Harden's was longer too. Like, it's 10 games longer at this point. Curry's not done also, so you can't really hold that against Curry. But yeah, absolutely incredible that he averaged 14.5 free throw attempts per game in that stretch. Curry's actually at 8.8 free throw attempts in this stretch.
I was going to say Curry only shot over 14 free throws in one game out of this entire stretch.
Dang.
Yeah,
it's just different. And I think it's that 50% from three that really just makes it incredible, because there's something about when a guy gets hot and it's not as special, or it doesn't seem as special. It doesn't seem as fun if somebody's just going to the free throw line over and over again. Like, what's the most boring part of a basketball game? Is free throws, right? No one wants to sit there, and especially with the Mavericks, because they just get infuriated when they miss them down the stretch. But I thought that was interesting. The Rockets fans are getting all up in arms about how guys are covered, and it's because James Harden goes to strip clubs, and I was like, whoa, we're still talking about basketball here, right? Like,
well, they don't have basketball to talk about right now. So,
all right, another NBA question for you. The news of, speaking of, James Harden out indefinitely, or as Chris Haynes first typo tweeted, out definitely with a hamstring setback. James Harden might be, and Steve Nash said that they're back to square one with James Harden. So this could take him all the way to the start of the playoffs, and he could be hobbled or not right for the first round even. Are we sure the Nets are still a lock for the finals?
What? Yeah, I mean, I would still put my money on them. Am I less confident? For sure. But it's still, and I think that I've seen a lot of people trying to make the Clippers comp and all of that. And my only pushback on that is, two of these stars for the Nets have won titles. And, Kawhi had before, obviously, but Paul George hadn't. And Pat Beverly hadn't. Some of these guys who kind of, failed, if we, said that in the playoffs and losing that 3-1 series and all of that, so Kyrie and KD, they've been there, done that, won their ring, and, multiple rings for KD. So if they're fully healthy, KD is the one thing for me. If KD is fully healthy at playoff time, and he has at least one of those guys with that supporting cast of Joe Harrison, I'm fine with that. But yeah, if KD's not healthy, I'm definitely questioning some things.
I looked this up today because I was interested. Like you said, a lot of people were making the Clippers comparison. KD, Harden, and Kyrie have played 7 games together this season, 186 minutes total. Last season, when everyone was talking about the Clippers and, they don't have chemistry, they haven't played a lot together, Kawhi and Paul George played 37 games together. Now, it's only 2 players compared to 3, which is different. A lot of variables there. But 890 minutes. So if we're talking that Clippers team didn't have a lot of chemistry and didn't have enough reps together, like 7 games, that's a playoff series that they've played together. 7 games. And those are non-consecutive games too. Absolutely crazy. So yeah, it's a good point to compare them to the Clippers. But it is different, right? You have 2 guys, but you also have James Harden, who is like Paul George in a sense that they have not been at their best in the playoffs. They're not same level player in the playoffs or whatever. But
I don't think they're cakewalking to the finals. I mean, they're going to have it's just if two of those guys are healthy, especially KD, it's hard for me to bet against that. The only other team that I would give a shot, of beating them to the finals would be Philly.
Yeah, that's a Philly. Like, I think that there's a Bucks sense in there. The Bucks have their team is made better for the playoffs, and I think some of their regular season stuff has been that they're just kind of trying stuff for the playoffs. Here's another thing I wanted to bring up. So we've been voting the last couple of months, our Locked On NBA hosts, and I send this poll out, and this is how big the gap was. The Lakers were the favorite. This is back February 17th. The Lakers were the huge favorite, double the next team. Clippers then next. Nets slightly below them, and I think David Locke's the only one that voted for the Jazz there. gave him a fourth place vote, or gave him a first place vote back then in February. Then if you take that to April 2nd, 83% of our hosts voted the Nets would be most likely to win the title. So that overwhelming came up, and then the Lakers were second, Clippers were third, a couple of them. Now, if you look, we did this on Monday, and it's down to 45%. So half of the hosts that voted for the Nets back 2 weeks ago are not voting for them now. And I found that fascinating. The Lakers went up a little bit, Clippers went up a lot. So there's some lack of confidence in the Nets right now, which I think we would both agree with. Yeah,
well, it just all has to do with health stuff. I mean, because we just seen, KD come back, but now he's out with a thigh thing, and the Harden stuff with the hamstring. So yeah, I think right now I don't think a lot of people's thoughts are about chemistry and them not playing together a ton. I think everybody's just thoughts when they think about the Nets right now is, oh, okay, well, are they even healthy? Will they be healthy come playoff time? So that's the biggest question.
I mean, I'm thinking about chemistry, playoff wise. I mean, we have not seen enough of a sample size for me to know that in crunch time, when the game gets tight and they're not blowing teams out by 15, 20 points, that they know where to go, and that Steve Nash has had enough court time with all these guys to figure that stuff out. Maybe they will, and they'll just figure it out, and it's basketball, and KD always likes to take it chill and, say, oh, we got this, it's basketball, but maybe not. I don't know. They're a different team than the Clippers, but there's a lot of similarities there, and they're not as deep.
Yeah, there's some similarities. I still think it's a different class. It's similar in the sense
you said Kawhi Leonard was the best player in the NBA that year.
For sure. Yeah.
That's class right there.
I see the similarities between Kawhi and KD. It's after that I don't see a ton because there is no Kyrie. Kyrie has hit a massive shot in the finals. He hits these big. He's won there's a bunch. I like the net. Joe Harris. I would take Joe Harris over anybody else the Clippers had outside of Kawhi and Paul George. So I think their supporting cast a little bit better in Brooklyn too.
Yeah, like if we do that draft, right? We draft from those two playoff teams. It probably goes KD or Durant or KD or Kawhi 1 and 2, and then Harden, and then Kyrie, and then Paul George probably, and then after that you're like
Joe Harris,
Montrezl Harrell, right? Like, like how long until you get to another Clippers player?
Yeah. But do you know when you add up Blake Griffin with DeAndre Jordan in their all-star appearances,
and Marcus Aldridge is still listed on the roster.
Exactly.
So
count those all-stars too.
Still count.
This is a record. This is the most stacked team ever.
There you go. There's some burning questions. Let us know what you think in the comments about this. Again, rank the teams that you'd want the Mavs to face. Denver, Utah, the Suns, Clippers, and Lakers. Rank them as far as 1 being the Mavs would most want to play, 5 being they'd least want to play. In the comments, let us know on Twitter. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.